Hello, this week's topic is where do I begin? Over a decade ago, I had a dream that I was in a large field. This field was covered in rubber plants that were shaped like macaroni, except that they were not hollow. And they were about this size. I suddenly realized that these plants were destructive weeds, and this stretched out for miles. I was aware that this land could not produce any kind of food because it had been taken over by this plant, which was a weed. It was a harmful and destructive weed. Then I suddenly recalled a memory. I remembered that I was standing in that same field over 20 years before, and I had just one of these plants in my hand, and I just tossed it into the field carelessly. I didn't think about it. I didn't throw it in the trash, even though I should have. I just carelessly tossed it, and the soil was very fertile. So I realized that in the 20 years since I had been to the field, that weed had expanded everywhere for many, many miles. At first, I felt guilty because I had ruined a completely beautiful land that was very fertile. So I realized that I had created this problem. But at the same time, I also was aware that the ethical thing to do was to be part of the solution. I was going to have to find a way to pull all these weeds out and get rid of them before they continue to stretch out for many more miles. I was aware that this task was going to take many, many years because there was so much land to cover. I knew that it was possible, but I knew that it would be a very difficult task, and I knew that it would be time consuming. But I decided to take on the task regardless. Initially, I felt overwhelmed. I was thinking, where do I even begin? There are so many miles to cover. But I decided I'll start right here where I am. I'll just start pulling some weeds here in front of me, throw them in trash bags, and just keep on going until I finish. I remember being very focused and very determined to complete this task. And I remember thinking, however long it takes, that's what it takes, and I'll just continue forth until I finish. I made this task a high priority. When I woke up from this dream, I knew immediately that it had to do with my trauma. The large, fertile land represents the opportunities of my life. To me, the rubber plants that are basically weeds represent the trauma that I've experienced. I didn't get therapy earlier in my life for many reasons. Part of it was I couldn't afford it. I didn't know that we had sliding scale therapy. There were a lot of reasons. I was also afraid. And so I just tossed away this idea of going to therapy, just like I had tossed this one plant into the fertile soil. So because I neglected my therapy for so long, I believe that everything just festered in me. And so by the time I got to therapy at the age of 32, I knew that there was a lot that I was going to have to handle on an emotional level. I knew that the journey would be difficult. I knew that it would be time consuming. I knew that it could potentially be overwhelming. But I also felt it was the right thing to do. I felt it was my duty and my obligation to clean up my life, no matter how long it took. And I was definitely willing to do the work. Now, I wasn't thrilled about it. Obviously, nobody wants to put in a lot of effort into a project that's very grueling. But I knew that if I didn't take care of it, this trauma would continue to overtake other areas of my life. To reiterate what I've mentioned in prior videos, what makes trauma so difficult is that it does take over like a weed in a garden. It takes over anything and everything if you allow it to. So it can take over your finances. You could have financial problems if things go unhealed for too long. It can take over and create problems in your health. It can create problems in your relationships, and it could be all relationships, whether that's family, whether that's work relationships, friendships, etc. We definitely can wreak havoc in our lives if we don't take care of problems while they're very small. A weed is much easier to uproot when it's just one weed. And again, if you continue to let it grow in the garden, especially in fertile soil, then that weed can just get out of control. And I think all these effects of the trauma definitely can get out of control in our lives. One thing that I didn't see in the dream was what happened after I pulled all those weeds out of the garden. So in real life, I can tell you that as I have dealt with this trauma, as I've done a lot of inner work and therapy, I have been able to heal a lot. And now those nasty weeds are replaced with positive things. From the point of view of a garden, once you take out all the weeds, you can continue to cultivate the soil and plant beautiful plants, beautiful flowers. You can plant trees that produce fruit, and so on and so forth. And that's the same thing with our emotional life. As we uproot and get rid of those, difficult feelings that are rooted in trauma, we can transform our lives and we can reach a lot of our goals. We transform our lives in so many ways. Our relationships get better. There's just so much that can come out of this exercise of cleaning things up. So I would like to continue to encourage you, if you have had any trauma festering in your life, and if it is wreaking havoc in your life, to continue to seek the help that you need so that your life can transform. Because a beautiful garden, a beautiful orchard, a crop is much better than a field covered in weeds. Thank you for tuning in this week.
Hi, my name is Rosalinda Martinez. I'm a retreat leader at Empowerment Light. If you'd like to get connected with more tools and resources to help you on your journey, please see my website in the description section. As always, like and subscribe if you like this video. Look forward to a new video every Tuesday.